frustration. It's not unusual in the NBA. There's only one winner and everybody else loses.
How much have you guys missed Brunson?
A lot.
That's the NBA. People are going to get frustrated. The best competitors are frustrated.
Somehow, some way, it's getting worse for the Dallas Mavericks. From Luka Doncic quite literally saying he misses his ex-guard, Jalen Brunson, to Kyrie Irving saying that he is going to test free agency. So I have multiple sources on that particular situation. So we're going to bring you guys everything. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop, like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all of that out of the way, cue the intro. Some of the green slips you guys have been sending me is crazy. Like $1,250 off of a $250 slip, or $1,500 off of a $150 power play. We've been making bank off of our basketball picks, bro. March Madness was a huge success, and believe me, we're about to ramp it up for the NBA playoffs. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use my promo code microphone, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100 instantly. After that, just follow me on Instagram. I post all of my picks onto my Instagram story for free, and we can start making money off of these picks together. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The last time I appeared on this channel and discussed the Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and the Dallas Mavericks situation, I reported that they were considering shutting down Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving for the remainder of the season. As a matter of fact, that's what Shams Charania said. Check it out.
Have to seriously look at whether you shut down Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving these last 3 games, maybe 2 games. They're essentially 2 games out of the play-in. I'm told that the organization is seriously considering the possibility of shutting down those 3 guys. A top 10 protected pick. It behooves them not to try to keep their pick. You have 3 first-round picks that you can trade this offseason to go get a star, and you go get Kyrie Irving, who's playing at an elite level. You try to go get him, Luka Doncic, some help. They clearly need more depth on this team. Kyrie Irving, even though he's played at an elite level most of his time in Dallas, he just has not clicked.
Since then, the update obviously is that they didn't wind up shutting down Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Now, I would understand why they would want to do that, but for some reason, I guess Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving refused to go out without swinging. I think that's admirable. I don't necessarily think it's the most intelligent decision to make in terms of roster construction. Personally, if it was up to me, I would shut down Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving for the remainder of the season because, well, at this point, I don't necessarily know if fighting for the 10th seed is worth it. I mean, you have to understand, making it in as a 10th seed into the play-in is one of the most difficult roads that you have to face. Let's assume that the Mavericks make it in as a 10th seed. They have to win 2 games in a row in order to make it in as an 8th seed. So they could face off against the Denver Nuggets in the first round of the NBA playoffs. You tell me, first of all, do you think the Dallas Mavericks are capable of winning 2 games in a row in a playoff atmosphere against teams that have similar records to them? Personally, I don't, but who knows? And then once that occurs, do you think that they're capable of beating the Denver Nuggets in a playoff series? No. So I am for them shutting down Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving and trying to improve their odds at getting them some help next year. I mean, bear in mind, if the Dallas Mavericks have a worse record than the Utah Jazz, they go from a 13.9% chance at getting a top 4 pick to a 20.3% chance at getting a top 4 pick. The very first piece of information I want to give you is the report about the Mavericks shutting down Luka and Kyrie appears to be not true. Luka and Kyrie are going to be playing out the remainder of the season, although I do understand the philosophy once again. So if that's the case, what's the problem? Well, it seems like the Dallas Mavericks are still in a very bad situation, even if Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving continue playing the rest of the games and end up making it into the play-in. Of course, we know the Kyrie Irving trade hasn't gone as planned for the Dallas Mavericks so far. When they made the trade, they were the 6th 6th best team in the Western Conference. This trade was supposed to put them over the hump. Kyrie Irving was supposed to be the player that the Dallas Mavericks were missing. He was supposed to complement Luka Doncic and hopefully take this team to the promised land, or at least improve marginally. But unfortunately, the fact that the Dallas Mavericks gave up a lot of their depth, giving up Spencer Dinwiddie, giving up Dorian Finney-Smith, definitely crippled them quite a bit. And I feel like at this point, Dallas Mavericks need to take a lesson from this and understand what the roadmap for building around Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic should be in the offseason. There's a choice that they need to make. It's either getting a third star to pair with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, assuming Kyrie Irving will stay, which we're going to get to in a sec. That is far from a guarantee, by the way. Or if they should build around him with high-end role players, which is what I'm a proponent of. It seems like that's what they need to do in order for this team to be competitive moving forward. I don't think Kyrie Irving is the reason why the Dallas Mavericks are struggling. Well, indirectly he is, not necessarily because he's Kyrie Irving, but because as a result of the Kyrie Irving trade, the Dallas Mavericks don't have role players that can support Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. But even furthermore, I don't think the Mavericks need a player of Kyrie Irving's caliber in order for Luka to be successful. I think a player of Spencer Dinwiddie's caliber was fine. I mean, what they had going last year with Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie was fine as well. It was good enough to get into the Western Conference Finals. And honestly, you could see Luka's kind of reminiscing about that because he was asked how he felt about Jalen Brunson not being on the team anymore. And he said this.
How much have you guys missed Brunson?
A lot.
If it's any consolation, Jalen Brunson thinks the current situation that the Mavericks are in is actually insane. He didn't expect this to be the situation that the Mavericks would be in this year. But obviously, it could rub your current teammates some type of way if you're fondly missing your ex-teammate. And honestly, I'm not expecting Luka Doncic to be the most level-headed person right now because he doesn't seem like he's having fun on the basketball court. Bear in mind, he said this.
It's really frustrating. I think you can see it with me on the court. Sometimes I don't feel it's me. Just being out there. I used to have really fun, smiling on court, but it's just been so frustrating for a lot of reasons, not just basketball.
So clearly, he might just be remembering happier memories when he was playing basketball. But to his credit, he also took responsibility for the fact that the Dallas Mavericks had a very disappointing season, where he says, I think you don't see that chemistry we had before. I mean, especially last year. I think that chemistry was at the top. Everybody, the chemistry builds, not right away. It's a long process. Doncic has also said that he struggled with fatigue after having little time off over the past 3 years, but that's not an excuse. I'm still young age-wise, but it's a lot of basketball, but I gotta be better. The leader of this team, the one to blame is me. The thing that he also alluded to is he doesn't seem very happy with the way the roster around him was constructed. I could understand that. Of course, the Dallas Mavericks' big swing in the offseason was trading for Christian Wood, a move that we were all very excited about. They also decided not to re-sign Jalen Brunson, which at the time we actually flamed the Knicks for signing Jalen Brunson, and I was wrong about that. It seemed to have been a remarkable move on a contract that's going to age very, very well. And then furthermore, they decided to trade Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith to bring in another star, Kyrie Irving. So instead of looking at the roster that they had and saying, hey, we have the core that we need over here, they decided to blow up the team that had the most success with Luka Doncic since the Luka Doncic era began. Instead of adding pieces to that team, they blew it up for the most part. And the Kyrie Irving trade appears to be the icing on the cake. Now, the worst part of all is, originally, when Kyrie Irving was traded for, there was a huge risk. It could be a short-term rental. Heard it over and over again during the trade deadline. And we're hearing conflicting reports about Kyrie Irving's plans because on one hand, you have Mark Stein saying that there are rumbles that Kyrie Irving wants to stay in Dallas, which to me makes a lot of sense. I don't necessarily think of a team that could be a better destination for Kyrie than the Dallas Mavericks, at least not off the top of my head. He definitely has a reputation surrounding him as a team killer currently, and I don't think he killed the Dallas Mavericks, but I do think his tenure with the Brooklyn Nets was very volatile. I do think he got everything he could have ever wanted with the team that was built on the Boston Celtics. Hell, I'll even go one level higher and say if he was on the Boston Celtics to this day, I am fully convinced that he would have won a championship with the Boston Celtics. I firmly believe that. You don't have to agree with that take, but I believe in it. And if there's anything we've ever learned concerned about Kyrie Irving, it's that he's anything but predictable. Because Chris B. Haynes is saying the complete opposite here. Both of these are very credible sources. I'd say Chris B. a little bit more than Mark Stein, but it's funny because these are the only two scenarios that could occur. According to Chris B. Haynes, Kyrie Irving will test free agency despite being eligible for an extension by the Dallas Mavericks. Again, I'm not necessarily sure what team will pursue Kyrie Irving, not because there's teams out there that wouldn't be interested in his services. I just don't know what teams are in that type of situation where they're a point guard away from contention. In years past, I would have said the Phoenix Suns. Now, I'm not necessarily too sure if I'm being honest. It just gets crazier because you have Tim Hardaway Sr. calling out Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving over the lack of leadership. You have multiple videos of Kyrie Irving trying to get fans thrown out of the arenas of games that he's playing in. A lot of circa Los Angeles Lakers Russell Westbrook energy going on with Kyrie in Dallas, although it's not from his own fan base, I will admit. So what's the way out here? What's the solution? Well, first things first is you should not make the playoffs. The Dallas Mavericks should do everything they possibly can to tank from here on out. There's not much upside to making it into the playoffs, and Luka just said straight up that he's tired. I mean, he said he needs a break. If there's a time to take a break, it's during the season that you guys are a potential 10th seed, in my opinion. I think that is the time where you shut yourself down for the remainder of the season and focus more on the offseason and focus on trying to get yourself some better teammates that could take you where you want to go. Secondly, I think the Dallas Mavericks need to have a laser-like focus on surrounding Kyrie Irving, if Kyrie Irving returns, and Luka Doncic with high-end role players, primarily 3-and-D type players, stretch big men. I think the only player that should definitely return next year as a role player is Maxi Kleber. Maybe make an attempt to retain Christian Wood. Maybe try to make a run at Jordan Clarkson. Try to fortify the offense around Luka Doncic. I don't even necessarily think you need to retain Kyrie Irving. I don't think Luka needs Kyrie to be successful. I just think he needs a capable point guard that has the ability to score and take some of the load off of him throughout games. Kyrie is the extreme version of that, but if you want to save some money, maybe pursue a player like Jordan Clarkson or any player of that caliber would do, in my opinion. The most ideal scenario for a star player with Luka Doncic would be a player that thrives in the pick and roll. If the Mavericks would have been able to trade for Rudy Gobert, that would have been cool. I don't think it would have been the end all be all for the Mavericks, but I think that could have potentially worked out because Rudy Gobert is one of the best screeners in the entire NBA. If Joel Embiid was available, trading for him could definitely solve a lot, but it seems like their means of solving this issue will either have to be in free agency or the NBA draft. Maybe you make a run on Nikola Vucevic, maybe you make a run at Jeremy Grant, or maybe you finally give Christian Wood the minutes that we were all expecting him to get. I'm not necessarily sure. I think at the end of the day, the Dallas Mavericks are going to be consistently in this situation where they're going to try to figure out what situation Luka Doncic is the most likely to thrive in and how they could save Luka before Luka loses patience with them. I think Kyrie Irving staying is the more likely scenario, if I'm being honest. I think the Mavericks are okay whether he stays or he goes, and I think the Mavericks need to revise their team building philosophy and try to go back to what made them so successful last year. Last year, Luka had two very capable guards to take over when he needed them to take over. He had more depth last year than he had this year, which, to be honest, isn't really saying much. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. What should the Dallas Mavericks do to save the Luka Doncic era in Dallas? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.